when a humble black tech entrepreneur stepped onto a national stage to face a ruthless TV host. No one expected his quiet truth to shake America, but one calm voice would spark a movement. Malik Johnson sat in his small but neatly organized office, surrounded by shelves of books, technology, gadgets, and framed photos of his family and mentors. The afternoon sun filtered through the blinds, casting a soft glow on the walls that were filled with quotes about perseverance and change. His team of 5 was busy working in the next room, preparing for the upcoming launch of their new educational platform for underprivileged students. Malik, who had grown up in one of the roughest neighborhoods of Atlanta, never imagined that one day he'd be the CEO of a growing tech company. But he had built everything with hard work, quiet determination, and a deep desire to make a difference. He was checking emails when one subject line made him pause. It read, "Invitation, live interview on The Grant Wallace Show." Malik blinked, thinking it was a joke. The Grant Wallace Show was one of the most popular and controversial talk shows in America. Hosted by the sharp-tongued, opinionated Grant Wallace, the show was known for its aggressive tone, dramatic debates, and frequent viral moments. Many guests, especially those who didn't fit the host's worldview, had been humiliated or mocked on national television. It was not the kind of place where thoughtful entrepreneurs were usually invited. Malik opened the email and read carefully. It was a real offer. The producers had seen a recent article about his company, LearnTech Rising, which was helping low-income students access virtual learning tools through affordable tablets and customized software. They wanted him to appear on a live segment the following week. The stated topic was technology and education equity, but Malik knew better. This was more than just an interview. It was a stage, a trap, or maybe an opportunity, he called. A meeting with his team that evening. The room was filled with cautious energy. "Are you seriously considering going?" asked Tasha, his operations manager, frowning with concern. "Do you know what he does to people? Especially to people who look like us." "I know," Malik said quietly. "But think about the kind of reach that show has. Millions of viewers. What if we could change just a few minds? Well, what if I don't go in to fight, but to explain clearly and calmly why our work matters?" Head of development Brian added, "They're not calling because they respect what you do. They're calling because they want to make a scene." Malik nodded. "I'm aware. But I've been through worse than a TV show host trying to rattle me. If I stay silent, we remain small. If I go, maybe just maybe we make people pay attention."
After
a long pause, his team agreed to support him. Tasha began preparing media briefings. Brian pulled together data points. Malik's younger brother, Jamal, who handled community outreach, even got a few trusted friends in the media to start talking about the upcoming appearance, just in case things went sideways. That night, Malik couldn't sleep. Memories from his childhood came flooding back. Growing up in a neighborhood where gunshots were normal and power outages lasted days. His mother working double shifts at the hospital, his older cousin being arrested at age 17. But he also remembered the teacher who gave him his first used laptop and told him he was too smart to stay quiet. That teacher had planted the seed that later became LearnTech Rising. The day of the interview came faster than expected. Malik wore a dark blue blazer over a simple white shirt, professional, but not flashy. His dreadlocks were tied back neatly. He flew to New York the night before and stayed at a modest hotel, avoiding all press requests. That morning, he walked into the studio with his shoulders squared, heart steady, and mission clear. The studio was colder than he expected. Bright lights, cameras everywhere. Makeup artist touched up his forehead. Stagehand gave him a cup of water and guided him to the guest chair. Across from him sat Grant Wallace Stahl, Leanne, his perfectly styled gray hair and the smug confidence of someone who had spent 20 years controlling every conversation he entered. "Malik Johnson," Grant said with a smirk as the cameras started rolling. "Welcome. You've been making waves with your tech company. It's very ambitious for a guy from the streets." "Sure. Here is part 2 of the true real-life story. Black entrepreneur destroys TV host. His response leaves America in shock." Explained in approximately 2,500 words. In simple and interesting English with no headings, Malik looked straight ahead as the cameras turned on. The bright lights didn't bother him as much as he thought they would. He had imagined this moment so many times in his head that now, sitting across from Grant Wallace, he felt oddly calm. Grant gave him a smile that didn't reach his eyes, and then turned to the camera to welcome his audience. "Tonight we have a very special guest," Grant said smoothly. "Malik Johnson, a young tech entrepreneur who claims his company is changing the face of education. A big claim, I'd say. Let's see if it holds up." Malik didn't flinch. He sat up a little straighter and gave a polite nod. Grant leaned forward and said, "Malik, you run a business called Learn Tech Rising. Provide cheap tablets and learning software to poor kids. That's cute, but is it really doing anything? Or is it just another charity with a fancy name?" Malik smiled. "Actually, we're not a charity, Grant. We're a business, and a growing one. In the past 2 years, we've helped over 70,000 students across low-income areas access learning tools at home. Attendance rates improved in those areas, and test scores started to rise." Grant raised his eyebrows dramatically. 70,000? Impressive number? But anyone can throw out numbers on television. Where's the proof? "Our data is public," Malik replied. "We work with school districts, track results. And more importantly, we're in those communities listening and improving based on what teachers and students tell us." Grant tilted his head and gave a sarcastic smile. "Right, so you're saying your small company is doing what billion-dollar education systems couldn't figure out?" Malik's tone remained steady. "Sometimes big systems don't listen to the people they serve. We do. That's the difference." There was a small pause. The audience, both in the studio and watching at home, could feel the tension rising. Grant shifted in his seat and went in harder. "Let's talk about something else. You grew up in what you once described as one of the roughest neighborhoods. In Atlanta, should we be celebrating that? Or maybe asking why someone from that kind of background should be leading anything?" For a brief second, the room went silent. The crew, used to Grant's style, watched Malik closely. Most guests got angry at this point. Some got flustered. A few had walked off the stage. But Malik didn't blink. "I'm not asking for celebration," he said quietly. "I'm asking for understanding. Where I come from, people are not broken. They're overlooked. They're capable, and I'm proof of that." Grant laughed under his breath. "You sound like a motivational speaker." "I'm not," Malik said. "I'm someone who believes that talent is everywhere. Opportunity isn't." Grant picked up a folder from his table. "Let's look at your finances, Malik. According to reports, your company hasn't made a profit yet. You're relying on investors and grants. So, are you actually a business, or are you just playing dress-up?" Malik didn't look rattled. "It's true we're still early stage. Most startups take years to become profitable. But we've already built sustainable models in 3 states. Our goal isn't just money's impact. But yes, we plan to be profitable, and we're on track." Grant smiled like a lion ready to pounce. "You say impact over money? That's sweet. But people want results. Real money. Real growth. Not feel-good stories." Malik leaned forward slightly. "Real results are kids logging into virtual classrooms for the first time. Real growth is when a 5th grader in Mississippi, who never had a working laptop, now finishes her homework on time. If that's not a result, I don't know what is." The studio audience gave a quiet, surprised murmur. Grant clearly hadn't expected that answer. Trying another angle, Grant asked, "Do you think race plays a part in how your company is treated?" Malik paused for a moment. "Yes. I think being a black founder means I often have to explain more, prove more, and defend more before anyone listens. But I don't use that as an excuse. I use it as fuel," Grant chuckled. "So now you're playing the race card?" Malik didn't hesitate. "No. I'm telling the truth. Facts aren't cards. They're just facts." That line hit hard. People watching at home started pulling out their phones, rewinding, sharing clips. Something about the way Malik said, it firm, but calm made it unforgettable. Grant was clearly getting frustrated. He waved a sheet of paper in the air. "One of your recent talks was titled Rewriting the Rules. Isn't that just another way of saying ignore the system and do whatever you want?" Malik nodded. "If the system was never built for people like me, I'm going to rewrite It not out of rebellion, but out of necessity. You proud of that? Grant asked. Very. Grant leaned back, smirking. Not what I expected. Neither are you, Malik replied. That made even the camera crew chuckle. Quietly, the rest of the segment moved fast. Grant tried to shake Malik by throwing more aggressive questions, suggesting he was overconfident, too idealistic, and not realistic about market competition. But Malik never lost his calm. He responded with examples, facts, in moments from his personal life. He talked about the mothers who cried when their children received their first device, about the boys who stopped skipping class because they didn't feel ashamed anymore, about how sometimes all it takes is one working tablet to change the rhythm of an entire household. One final question came near the end. Grant looked straight into the camera and said, "Why should anyone watching this care about your company?" Malik, there are 100 tech startups out there. Why you? Malik took a breath, then spoke in a low, strong voice. Because we're not just solving a tech problem. We're solving a human one. We're not in Silicon Valley making gadgets. For rich kids, we're in the neighborhoods no one wants to talk about, giving children a chance. Not a guarantee, but a chance? That matters. That should matter to all of us. Silence. Even Grant had nothing to say. The segment ended with polite handshakes, but the air in the room had changed. The control room crew exchanged glances. The host's assistant muttered, "That was something else." Backstage, Malik thanked the producers, declined the offer to do a follow-up that night, and walked quietly out of the building. Outside, a few people who had seen the live show already recognized him. One woman clapped softly as he passed by. "You held your ground," she said. "Thank you." Malik nodded, offering her a small smile. He didn't feel victorious. He felt tired. But inside him was a strange spark, small fire that had started to grow. On the ride back to his hotel, his phone buzzed nonstop. Missed calls, texts, Twitter notifications. Something was happening, but Malik didn't check right away. He closed his eyes, leaning back in his seat. He had said what he came to say. He had told the truth. Maybe, just maybe, America was listening. Here is part 3 of the true real-life story. Black entrepreneur destroys TV host. His response leaves America in shock. Explained in approximately 2,500 words. In simple and interesting English, with no headings, it was just a few hours after Malik's interview aired live, and something strange had already started happening online. One specific moment from the interview, where Malik calmly said, "Facts aren't cards. They're just facts," had been clipped by a viewer and posted on Twitter. The clip was only 24 seconds long, but within an hour, it had been shared over 2,000 times. By morning, it was everywhere. People from all backgrounds, teachers, students, business people, and even celebrities, started posting the clip with reactions. Some said they had never heard anyone speak with such calm clarity under pressure. Others praised how he kept his cool while being pushed again and again with difficult questions. A few influencers called it the best TV moment of the year. Even people who didn't normally talk about education or race found themselves writing long comments about the way Malik had answered. Meanwhile, Malik was completely unaware of the storm brewing online. After the show, he had eaten a quiet dinner and gone to bed early. When he woke up the next morning and turned on his phone, it was almost frozen with the number of notifications. At first, he thought something had gone wrong. Then he opened a text from his brother Jamal. "Bro, you broke the internet. Check Twitter now." Confused, Malik opened the app, and what he saw made him sit straight up in bed. His name was trending at number 3 in the United States. The clip of his interview had been viewed over 2 million times already. Celebrities like Viola Davis and Denzel Washington had shared it with comments like, "This is how you speak truth without shouting." Famous NBA player had tweeted, "Malik Johnson for president." There were thousands of tweets, videos, memes, and messages. Most of them were supportive, as some were emotional. A few were critical. But even those admitted they were surprised by how well he handled the interview. Malik put the phone down for a moment and stared at the hotel room ceiling. He didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or panic. He was just one man with a mission, not a celebrity, not someone who sought fame. But now, in less than 24 hours, millions of people knew who he was. His phone buzzed again. It was a call from Tasha, his operations manager. "Malik, we've got a situation." "I saw. It's wild," he said, rubbing his eyes. "No. You don't understand," Tasha said, her voice filled with both excitement and urgency. "We've got reporters from CNN, NBC, and even international outlets asking for interviews. Our website crashed last night because too many people tried to visit it at the same time. And guess what? 3 investors who ghosted us last year are suddenly asking for meetings." Malik shook his head in disbelief. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious," she replied. "This is bigger than just a viral clip. People want to know who you are. They're actually listening," while the team scrambled to fix the website, schedule interviews, and respond to media requests. Malik tried to stay grounded. He made a list of the most important things to focus on, making sure the team didn't get overwhelmed, making sure their message stayed clear, and most importantly, using this attention to lift the communities they served. He knew viral moments faded quickly. If they wanted real change, they had to move fast, but stay focused. That afternoon, Malik returned home to Atlanta. At the airport, 3 people stopped him for selfies. A TSA agent told him, "My son saw your clip and said, I want to be like him. Thank you." Malik smiled, thanked her, and kept walking, still trying to make sense of it all. By the time he reached his office, his small company looked and felt very different. New volunteers had showed up, offering to help in any way they could. Boxes of tablets and devices had been donated by tech companies within just 24 hours of the interview. Emails poured in from school principals across the country asking how they could partner with LearnTech. Rising. But the most surprising part wasn't the media buzz or the support. It was the stories people started sharing. A teacher in Detroit wrote, "I used your interview in my classroom this morning. My students said it was the first time they felt someone on TV understood their lives." A single mother from Texas emailed, "I watched your clip 10 times. I cried. I felt seen. I want to help even if I just sweep the floors of your office." Young man from Alabama sent a video message saying, "I'm starting my own small tech company because you gave me the courage. I always thought people like me didn't have a voice, but you spoke for us." Malik spent hours reading every message he could. Some made him smile. Some brought tears to his eyes. And as much as he wanted to answer them all, he knew his time was limited. The world had its eyes on him, but for how long, he didn't. No, that week, Malik appeared on 2 more shows, but this time, the tone was very different. The hosts treated him with respect. They asked thoughtful questions, and Malik, as always, answered with quiet intelligence. He never bragged, never acted like a hero. He always brought the focus back to the children, the families, and the communities. That needed support. Still, not everyone was happy with his rise. Some critics accused him of playing into the media for attention. A few pundits on rival networks tried to discredit his work, saying it was too small to matter. But Malik didn't respond to them. He stayed focused on what mattered most. Meanwhile, Grant Wallace, the host who had tried to shake him, was facing backlash of his own. Clips from the interview showed Grant's rude and dismissive tone. Social media users called him out for his subtle racism and arrogant behavior. Some advertisers even began pulling their support from his show, saying they didn't want to be connected to someone who belittled guests in private. The producers of the show admitted they had expected Malik to either freeze or explode. Either way, they would have a viral clip. Instead, Malik had flipped the script. His calm confidence had made Grant look small. People noticed. Back at the LearnTech Rising office, Jamal suggested creating a special follow-up video. "You should talk to the people directly," he said. "Don't wait for the media. Use your own voice." Malik agreed. That weekend, he recorded a short video message in the office, sitting in front of a wall of student photos. He said, "I didn't go on TV to become famous. I went to speak about something that matters. Education should be a right, not a privilege. Every child, no matter where they're from, deserves a fair chance. If you believe that too, then join us. Help us. Let's build something that lasts." The video went viral again. Donations flooded in. Volunteers signed up. Malik's story was no longer just his own. It had become a symbol of something bigger, a movement for equal opportunity, a respect for hope. By the end of the week, Malik had spoken with leaders from several school districts, received a personal call from a U.S. senator, and been invited to speak at a national education summit. Still, through all the noise, he reminded his team of their purpose. "This isn't about one interview," he said. "It's about what we do next. They're watching now. So let's show them what we're made of." And with that, they got back to work. Because while a TV clip can go viral in seconds, real change takes time, and Malik was just getting started. Here is part 4 of the true real-life story. Black entrepreneur destroys TV host. His response leaves America in shock, explained in approximately 2,500 words, written in simple and interesting English, without any headings. After the viral video made Malik Johnson a household name. The world expected him to enjoy the attention, relax into fame, or maybe even start accepting offers for TV appearances or brand deals. But Malik was not interested in becoming a celebrity. While people online debated his character, praised his calm style, or criticized talk show host Grant Wallace for his behavior, Malik quietly returned to his work. He knew the moment would pass. It always did. What mattered was turning all this attention into something real, something that could last even when people moved on to the next headline. The energy in the LearnTech rising office had completely changed. Just a few months ago, it was a tiny startup with a small team, working long hours trying to convince schools to partner with them. Now, it was a movement. Phones rang nonstop. More than 50 school districts had reached out. Thousands of people had signed up to volunteer or donate. Tech companies that had ignored Malik in the past were now offering to support his work with money, devices, and software tools. But Malik was careful. He didn't want flashy donations without real commitment. He didn't want to take help that came with hidden strings. He had seen too many good projects destroyed by partnerships that looked good on paper but lacked heart. He called a team meeting and said, "This is our moment. But we can't change who we are just because more people are watching. We are here for one reason, to make education fair and accessible. No shortcut, no compromise." Tasha, his operations manager, nodded. "So what's the plan?" "We expand," Malik said. "But we do it our way." Instead of focusing on more media coverage, Malik and his team started traveling. They visited small towns and inner-city neighborhoods that had reached out after seeing the viral clip. Malik wanted to listen to the people they were trying to help. In Mississippi, he sat with parents who didn't trust tech, but wanted something better for their kids. In rural Kansas, he met teachers who had been buying school supplies with their own money. In South Carolina, he visited a school with no working computers but dozens of eager students. Everywhere he went, he listened, he took notes, and he built. Plans LearnTech Rising opened 3 new local offices within 6 months, hiring people directly from the communities they were helping. These weren't just symbolic gestures. Malik believed real change had to be led by people who knew the struggle. He trained local leaders, hired young people with potential but no experience, and gave them roles with real responsibility. They were no longer just a tech startup. They were a national network built on trust, hard work, and shared vision. Meanwhile, the national conversation about race, media, and opportunity was still hot. Malik's interview continued to be used in college classrooms, business panels, and educational workshops. The clip became part of school lessons on communication and leadership. But Malik never let the praise distract him. He knew that for every compliment, there were still thousands of children without basic access to learning tools. He wanted to be the kind of leader who kept showing up. It's not just the one who had once gone viral. Then, something unexpected happened. A major university reached out and asked Malik to speak at their graduation ceremony. At first, he hesitated. He had turned down dozens of speaking invitations already. But this one felt different. The university had just opened a new scholarship fund for first-generation college students. They wanted Malik to help launch it with his speech. He accepted, but he made a special request. "I'll speak, but only if I can bring 2 students. With Muriel students who use our program, The university agreed. On the day of the ceremony, Malik walked on stage with a young girl from Detroit and a teenage boy from rural Georgia. Both had been part of LearnTech Rising programs for a year. Both had stories that inspired tears and applause. When Malik spoke, he didn't talk about himself. He talked about potential. He said, "We've been told for too long that some kids can't make it, that where you're born decides how far you'll go. That is not truth. That is traditional, and traditions can be broken." His words were shared online again and spread across news platforms, but something deeper was happening. Malik's work had become more than just education. It had become a symbol of dignity, of what happens when someone chooses not to fight. Hate with hate, but with purpose, vision, and relentless effort. Later that month, Malik was invited to a national education policy roundtable in Washington. D.C. senators, school superintendents, researchers, and nonprofit leaders gathered to discuss the future of digital learning. Malik was the only entrepreneur on the panel. Some attendees looked at him with doubt. He was younger, or not formally trained in education, and his rise had been too fast for some people's comfort. But when Malik spoke, people listened. He didn't use big academic words. He spoke from experience. He said, "If we keep building systems without listening to the people inside them, we will keep failing. Education is not about tech. It's about people. Tech is just the tool." His ideas were simple but powerful. He proposed a national plan to provide basic learning devices to every student living below the poverty line. He suggested training programs for teachers that included real-time support, not just theory. He pushed for student feedback to become a central part of education reform. Some nodded in agreement, others resisted. By the end of the meeting, his presence had shifted the room. A senator approached him afterward and said, "You reminded us why we got into public service in the first place." While all of this was happening, Malik's team continued to grow. The company now had nearly 100 employees and partners in more than 15 states, but Malik made sure the culture stayed the same. Every new hire had to spend their first 2 weeks in the field, meeting the people they would serve. There were no corner offices, no fancy job titles, just shared purpose. As the months passed, even critics began to change their tone. One newspaper that had previously published a harsh article about Malik released a new opinion piece titled, "We misjudged him." Another former skeptic tweeted, "He proved me wrong, and I'm glad he did." But the most surprising change came from someone. No one expected Grant Wallace himself. The talk show host who had tried to humiliate Malik on live TV now found himself on the defensive. Sponsors had left. His ratings had dropped. He had become a symbol of the old way loud, dismissive, and unwilling to listen. Of humility, Grant released a public statement saying he had failed to treat a guest with fairness, and that he had learned a great deal from the response. Many people thought it was fake, a PR move, but Malik didn't respond with bitterness. When asked about it in an interview, he simply said, "I don't know if it's sincere, but I hope it is. Growth is good for all of us." That answer won even more hearts. People admired how Malik refused to gloat, even when he had every reason to. He wasn't in this to win arguments. He was in this to win opportunities for others. Inspired by Malik's work, several young entrepreneurs started launching their own projects, focused on education, healthcare, and community development. Some even reached out to LearnTech Rising for mentorship. Malik welcomed them with open arms. He didn't see them as competition. He saw them as the future. One day, while visiting a school in Chicago, a little girl hugged him tightly and said, "My teacher told us you were the reason we got computers. I want to build apps too, just like you." Malik crouched down and smiled at her, then promised me something. "When you grow up and build your first app, teach 10 more kids how to do it too." She nodded with bright eyes. "I promise." And in that moment, Malik felt something stronger than success. He felt legacy. He knew he wasn't finished yet. There was still so much to do. But he also knew something had already changed, not just in his company, not just in the media, but in the hearts of the people, the belief that things could be different, that even the most ignored voices could lead, could teach, could inspire. Malik had not only changed the conversation, It changed the direction, and he was just getting started. Here is part 5 of the true, real-life story. Black entrepreneur destroys TV host. His response leaves America in shock. Explained in approximately 2,500 words. Written in simple and interesting English, and without any headings. It had been almost a year since Malik Johnson appeared on national television and calmly dismantled a powerful and arrogant talk show host. A lot had changed in that time. Malik had gone from a quiet, hardworking tech entrepreneur to one of the most talked-about names in education and digital equity. But through it all, he had stayed the same person, inside focused, humble, and deeply committed to helping the communities he came from. Every week brought new opportunities. Big companies offered him positions on their boards. Universities wanted to give him honorary degrees. Politicians wanted photo ops. But Malik kept most of it at arm's length. He didn't want to become a symbol without substance. What mattered to him was continuing the work, making sure every child, no matter their zip code, had the tools to learn, dream, and succeed. Still, there was one story the public had been waiting to see unfold. After months of silence, Grant Wallace, the TV host who had tried to embarrass Malik on live television, finally returned to the spotlight. His show had taken a serious hit after the viral interview. Viewers had turned away. Advertisers had pulled out. And critics had pointed fingers at him for showing disrespect, bias, and arrogance. Grant had gone off air for 3 months. During that time, he stayed completely out of the media. No posts, no interviews, no appearances. People wondered what he was doing, if he was planning a comeback or just trying to escape the storm. Some believed he was just waiting for the public to forget. Others believed he was being forced to stay quiet by the network. Then one day, without any big announcement or flashy preview, Grant Wallace returned to television. The show opened with no guests, no live audience, and no dramatic music. Just Grant, sitting alone at his desk, wearing a simple gray suit. He looked older than before, tired. His voice was quieter, more serious. He looked straight into the camera and said, "I want to begin tonight with something I should have said a long time ago. I owe you, the audience, and especially Malik Johnson, an apology." The statement shocked everyone. He continued, "When Malik came on this show, I was prepared to tear him down. I had made my mind up before I even met him. I saw him not as a guest, but as a target. That was wrong. I interrupted him, disrespected his work, and treated his success like it didn't matter. And yet, in that moment, he didn't fight back. With anger, he answered with grace, intelligence, and strength." Grant paused. He seemed to struggle with his next words. "I've spent the last few months thinking about why I did what I did. I felt threatened. And the truth is, I had grown comfortable in a world where I was always the one in control." Malik reminded me and all of us that sometimes the truth doesn't need to shout. Sometimes it just needs to be spoken with courage. The clip of this apology spread quickly. People were stunned. Some thought it was genuine. Others were suspicious, calling it a PR move. But whatever people believed, the fact remained. Grant Wallace had publicly admitted he was wrong. And he gave full credit to the man he once tried to embarrass. Reporters rushed to get Malik's reaction. Everyone expected him to gloat, to celebrate, to take some kind of revenge. But once again, Malik surprised everyone. When asked about the apology, Malik said, "I appreciate it. It takes strength to admit you were wrong, especially in front of millions. I'm not interested in payback. I'm interested in progress," he added. "We all grow in different ways. If this helps him grow, and if it helps others reflect, then I'm glad. But my focus is still the same, making sure kids get the education they deserve." That answer went viral too, but in a different way. Not because it was dramatic, but because it showed something people rarely saw in public life: forgiveness without weakness, dignity without pride. Shortly after Grant's apology, Malik was invited back onto the same show. The producers offered him the full hour, no interruptions, no tricks. Everyone wondered if he would accept. Malik did agree, but on one condition: He said, "I'll do it if we invite students to speak, not just me. This story is bigger than me." And so, the show aired a special episode called The Voices We Missed. Malik sat beside 3 students from different states that of them had benefited from LearnTech Rising's programs. They spoke about how getting a tablet had changed their lives. One girl said she used to cry at night because she couldn't do her homework, and now she wanted to study science in college. A boy said his father had never used a computer, but now they did online reading together. Another student shared how having access to learning made him feel like he belonged in the world again. Malik didn't speak much during the show. He let the students talk. Grant too mostly listened. At the end of the show, Grant turned to Malik and said, "You didn't just change my mind. You changed the direction of this conversation, maybe even this country." Malik shook his head and said, "I didn't do it alone. Change never happens alone." After the episode aired, Malik's message reached an even wider audience. More. Schools joined hands with LearnTech Rising. Donations increased. More importantly, so did action. Inspired by Malik's work, people in other industries began asking hard questions about fairness, access, and who gets to be heard. Doctors started programs to bring healthcare tech to poor neighborhoods. Artists began creating platforms for underrepresented voices. Local governments re-examined their policies on education budgets and digital access. Malik's quiet revolution was rippling through the country. Back at LearnTech Rising, Malik sat with his team for their weekly check-in. Tasha read out numbers. New partnerships, increased reach, growing support. Everything was going well. But Malik raised his hand and said, "Let's not get lost in the numbers. Let's talk about the stories." So they did. They read letters. From children, emails from single parents, messages from teachers. One story stood out. It was from a boy in a juvenile detention center who wrote, "Because of your program, I'm taking online classes now. When I get out, I want to start a company like yours. I want to help someone the way you helped me." Leek read that letter twice. Then he folded it and put it in his wallet. One weekend, he visited a local school for an event. A group of parents, teachers, and children welcomed him warmly. A small boy ran up to him, gave him a drawing, and said, "This is me and you. You gave me wings." Malik bent down and smiled. "You had the wings all along. It just showed you where the sky was." The boy laughed and hugged him. Later that evening, standing in the quiet hallway of the school, Malik looked around at the handmade posters, the photos, the eager faces he had seen earlier. He thought about how far things had come, but he also thought about the work ahead. There were still too many kids without access, too many parents struggling, too many teachers overworked and underpaid. But now, at least, there was a light. Growing light, Malik never saw himself as a hero. He never wanted to become the center of attention. But by staying true to his mission, by refusing to fight hate with hate, by lifting others instead of tearing them down, he had done something rare and powerful. He had shifted hearts. He had changed minds. And he had opened a door for thousands who once believed the door wasn't meant for them. His journey didn't end with a viral video or an apology or an award. It continued in every classroom where a child logged in for the first time, in every family that discovered hope, in every young person who dared to dream because they saw someone like Malik do it first. And so, as America watched, Malik Johnson walked forward not as a media star, not as a political figure, but as something stronger, a quiet builder of a better future. A man who destroyed a TV host not with anger but with truth, who shocked the nation not with noise but with purpose, and through it all, he remained the same boy from Atlanta who once sat in a classroom with no working computer and dreamed of a better way. Now he was helping others find theirs.